I'm so excited today to have Monique Simair on the episode. Dr. Monique Simair is a scientist, two-time founder, and innovation advisor based in Saskatchewan. She's built and excited companies in the water, mining, and environmental sectors, and now focuses on science, communication, entrepreneurship, and innovation policy, metacognition, and how people build careers in companies when progress is not linear and ideas have to move from theory into practice. So you are a perfect guest for the show.
Awesome.
Because I think that gap is almost what this show is about. So building a thing, growing a thing. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm going to start you up with some warm-up questions. Tell me a little bit about how you work. You're currently, you told me, retired-ish.
That's the title I'm using right now. Yeah.
So what's keeping you busy lately?
Yeah. I sold my second company in January of 2025 and stayed there for a bit, and around November decided that it was time for me to move along. So I've taken on the title of semi-retired right now. It has a better ring than unemployed, I think. It's chosen.
I like that, yeah.
It's a chosen role, and I'm at this kind of transition phase of my life where I want to give back to the community in entrepreneurship. So I'm not going to launch another company, but never say never. I always say
I'll never believe.
Never say never, right?
Don't close that door.
But my goals right now are more around forming community around entrepreneurship, sharing knowledge, transitioning knowledge, and looking for places where I can do that in a larger scale. So things like this podcast, perfect. Thanks so much for having me.
You talked before we started rolling about you have your own show you're wanting to do. You have a Substack. You're starting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's part of my goal of sharing knowledge and information. After 15 years of running businesses, more than 18 years working in the mining sector and doing science. Well, I guess doing science is more over 25 years now or so. But I thought I should start getting this stuff out there because one of the things I work in a lot is community engagement in my past roles in science. And I want to get information out there, both about science, but about the business side of things, about how some of the things operate, how we could think differently. And I'm pretty open. I would be considered neurodivergent. I think everyone in my family actually is neurodivergent in some way, whether it's Tourette syndrome, ADD, which I'm on the spectrum, dyslexia, anxiety, OCD. We got that all in my family. So I'm used to operating non-normally. And I see all this advice out there for normal ways of doing things. And I think, what about the non-normal? How can we uncommonly do things? And so I want to get that out. My podcast and my Substack are called The Outlier Mindset. I'm just getting the first episodes together, and it's exciting. But I also have found that I'm a little bit frozen with it. I'm used to doing the entrepreneurial thing where you get going, you do something, and you move. You've been there, right?
I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
I'm there right now.
And this new venture for me, it's so outside of my normal, like the concept of marketing and video editing. I'm like frozen with an analysis paralysis. So I've just had to make these like rules for myself, like just film it. Who cares if it's not perfect? It'll never be perfect, right? So that's coming out soon. That's my next thing.
I think you're wise to just do the thing.
Yeah.
My friend and I, we have a joke. He's an entrepreneur too, but it's not a joke. It's just like a phrase we always use. With, like I'll tell him I'm doing something. I'm like, I don't know if it'll work, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know, Matt, that's what I love about you. You're a doer. And so we call each other doers because we try things without knowing how it'll work out.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing that you realize once you start just doing things is you're allowed to just do things.
Yeah. Even this podcast is like almost an experiment of like, just do it.
Yeah, why not?
There's like a joke. Well, I can't remember which TV show it was from. I think of The Office, but it was like, who gives you the right? You know, I think it was Dwight talking Michael talking to Toby. Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like that idea of like, no one's giving you permission.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to wait for it, you will never do anything non-conforming. You'll just have this analysis paralysis. I love that phrase too.
Yeah.
And then, and the other thing is like, you get better at it. Like if you ever watch like Diary of a CEO podcast,
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
if you go just back into his earlier episodes, like I know some of them, I remember watching them and be like the subject's out of focus, the production quality is just not there yet, and it's like didn't let it stop him.
He actually talks sometimes about his first episodes where he used a sock over his microphone because he didn't understand like the pop noises and stuff and how to prevent them. And you all start somewhere. There's actually a great Diary of a CEO episode right before the new year. It's like December 2025. And it was Chris Williamson.
Oh, I saw that one with his new glasses.
Yeah.
Perm hairstyle.
I know. I was like, who is this? But they talked about those beginnings. And they showed it also some clips of Chris's first podcasts where he was working in the club scene and he was like recording in the back office of a club. You got to start somewhere.
I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, a lot of the things you do, or for me, I'll speak to me, but like I do them to not just do the thing, but like to build the skill. Like it's not like even hosting a podcast is like I'm building a skill. I'm getting better at talking. It's actually helped me when I talk to customers because I've had so many conversations articulating what I'm up to, what I'm doing. I get a lot of knowledge from all my guests as well. And then the skill of being a host is getting better. The skill of producing it, the skill of even figuring out what to talk about. Like my first episodes were like, I didn't love the structure. I mean, we're not like that far in it, but like I'm learning as I go, and I'm just like, yeah, we'll put it out there. I'm also not filtering it too hard. I feel like that's, be really picky on the guest list.
Well, I think authenticity is so important. And if you get too scripted and too filtered, you lose that. So I think something not quite polished can resonate more with people just because it's authentic. A little bit gritty, dirty is okay.
That's what I like about long form content is like you can. Any of the clips we put just look polished because they're like,
I know you'll work some magic.
Yeah, like if they just look good. We don't even do it. We have like an AI program that slices and dices them together.
Oh, interesting.
And then you throw everything on the internet and the algorithm shows people and people watch certain clips.
Yeah.
It tends to just work out. So how do you work? Do you like sitting by yourself? Do you like working in a bullpen with a bunch of people?
Yes.
Both.
I like all work. It sounds funny to say I like work, but I like all types of forms of work. And being an entrepreneur, work blends with life. I've always been opposed to this concept of work-life balance because if you think of a balance, work and life are not opposed to one another, or they shouldn't be.
They're just together.
You should work for work-life integration. Yeah. And I recognize, like, I've worked tons of different jobs growing up, and not every job is going to give you that fulfillment. But if you're in a job that does give you some sort of fulfillment, you should integrate it and do all types of work with it. So as an example, when someone's a professional musician, you don't tell that person, why are you listening to music off hours? Why are you playing that extra instrument? Why would you do that? It's not work hours. It just sounds ridiculous. Professional athletes, same thing. You don't say, why are you eating a special diet? It's, how dare you work? Yeah, it doesn't make sense because that's kind of part of who they are. And especially with entrepreneurs, but I also find the same happens with scientists and other people who have spent a lot of time getting to, pursuing a specific area, it's part of who they are. And I don't think we should be shamed for that. I think we should be proud of it and celebrate it. So as an entrepreneur, you wear how many different hats in a day? You don't even know sometimes.
At least 2.
Yeah, at least.
Vacuum, bookkeeping.
It's funny you say vacuum. And the shirt I put on to wear today, I put it on and it had a couple little white dots on it. And I thought, oh, yeah, I forgot. It was a few months about half a year ago at the office, the toilets were dirty. And we do have a cleaner and stuff, but they got dirty in between. So I went and cleaned them and I got a splash of bleach on it. Oh. Cleaning toilets in the office as the owner. But you wear those hats, right? Because if you don't do it, who's going to? And so how do I like to work? I like a diversity of work. Being on the ADD spectrum, I multitask.
Variety.
All the time, variety. So if I had to do one type of work or one style of work all day, that would drain me. But if I could do some stuff, in a bullpen with a whole bunch of people brainstorming, have some quiet time, sitting, at home,
Couple client meetings,
calls, the random thing that, fire that pops up that you get to work on. I like it all. I just like that diversity of it.
Long-term thinking or fast iteration?
Both. So you need to have a long-term vision or goal and iterate to get there. And I think actually some of that comes from my scientific training, where you have to have, say, a theory of how something will work, and then you break it down into manageable things that you can test to see if you can support the theory.
Do you think you're pretty fast at like seeing a problem and like quickly like identifying intermediary steps to get there? Like as a 2-time founder?
I have a very weird ability for pattern recognition. And that's something that I had a natural skill to, the way that some people would be good at playing an instrument. I'm really good at pattern recognition. But then I've also worked on that more to not just be like, oh, there's a pattern and think I know what it means, to see a pattern and then be curious and then test if it's right or not. So
Do you use the scientific method throughout all life? Like have a hypothesis, test it, like
in some way. Okay, so I mentioned a theory a second ago. You just mentioned hypothesis. Do you know the difference between a hypothesis, a theory, and an opinion?
No.
Yeah, it actually took me a long time to learn this, and it just did not want to snap into my brain. So a hypothesis is something that can be tested. Okay, you can actually test a hypothesis. So for example, is this coffee hot or cold? You can test it and find out. So a hypothesis would be stated that the coffee is hot, and I could be right or wrong. And you're open to right or wrong. You just want to know the answer. A theory is a framework of a whole bunch of ideas, but you can never prove a theory right or wrong.
Interesting.
So a theory would be how the dinosaurs became extinct. There's no way you can travel back in time and test it and be like, yes, that's exactly how it happened.
So unknowns are theories.
A theory is like a combination, a framework that explains the combination of best known information at a time.
So even the beginning of the universe
Exactly.
would still be considered a theory.
Yeah, because there's no way you can test it.
And so then what they do know as fact is like the universe is expanding.
Yeah. And so they can have a hypothesis around those things and test parts of the theory, and you can disprove a theory.
Isn't it like, I've heard a thing like, isn't it like good science is trying to disprove the theory?
Always. Yeah. And an opinion just doesn't want data at all. That's the third one you have to get. An opinion does not want to be tested.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's better to have theories than opinions.
Frameworks are great. We all have opinions, right?
I have this view of opinions for myself. Mm-hmm. It's like I have them, but in the same way as like theory or even hypothesis, it's like I'm happy to be proven wrong and change it.
Absolutely.
Like I'm open to, I'm not.
And some opinions are harmless. Like I think purple's the best color. We can't test that. You can't prove me wrong.
Well, you could prove that you think it's the best.
I don't even know if I could prove it. It's an opinion. It's based on a feeling, right?
Yeah, I guess we could look in your closet.
Exactly.
You'd have to look at the behavior.
You could find data to support my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's often what happens with opinions, is we look for data to support our opinion rather than looking to question it or disprove it. And so I try to move everything I can into a hypothesis to be tested. So when I think, oh, people are motivated by X in the workplace, I don't just go ahead with, I think, well, how would I know if that's true or not? What metrics could I use to evaluate that? And actively seek that information. I think anytime we hear someone saying things like, what's best practices? That means like, don't do it. It's so old, so outdated. It's probably beyond the point of worth being doing. And you should think fresh about it and see how you could test that or use it as a best practice and test what does and doesn't work out of it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking before we were rolling, we were talking about investing and like there's all these rules about how you should invest percentages of your money into like bonds, cash, whatever, stocks. But then when you talk to advisors, they're like, well, it's terrible advice because one size fits all advice is terrible advice.
Exactly.
And so like the real thing is like, it depends.
And that's actually a good indicator that the person you're talking to is actually probably knowledgeable. If they give you a black and white, here's how you do it, they probably are not that knowledgeable about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they give you it depends, or it's nuanced, or, they probably actually know quite a bit about it. The challenge is that as humans, we want to hear certainty.
Simplify everything overly.
Yeah. Overly, it's black and white. But science and business, it's all shades or ombre. It's like completely a spectrum. And you have to figure out what's going to work for you.
When I photograph portraits of people, it's like I have some poses and, like a sort of an approach, but like I don't know what works because nothing works on everybody the same. Like everybody looks different. And then everybody also has a preference of how they look.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then sometimes people ask me like to make it absolute, like how would you do this? Because like maybe they want a guide so they can have someone from another city do the same headshot to match the team or whatever. And then it's like, well, it's not that simple. Just hire someone good and it'll probably work. And yeah, just like the oversimplification of things. It's like, oof. And we've gotten brand guides actually from companies to do headshots. I'm like, these are terrible poses. Like, because you got different body styles. People have different face shapes. People have different outfits, like clothing.
Yeah.
The clothing you wear changes how I'd photograph a person. And then it's like, you got to take all those things into account.
I'm assuming you can achieve a similar feel to a series of different photos of different people while using completely different poses. Is that true? I'm not a photographer. I don't know. Yeah. So you don't need here's the 5 poses these people could have in your brand kit. It's more about a feel.
Yeah. And then the people who like to simplify it, then they think it all has to be like, I got a camera on me there. So it's like everybody facing X degrees this way.
45 degree.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, not for everybody. And really what people want is just good photo. And so it's like, we'll just show a human. And then it isn't complicated. But trying to simplify it almost makes it more complicated.
Well, I've had my photos done by you several times for different purposes. And every time there's been stuff that's just like spot on. And during it, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to happen.
And you're particular.
Yeah.
I like,
Am I?
I actually love particular clients.
I'm like, less photo editing. I want to see my wrinkles. I earned those. Yeah.
One habit that helped you the most while building companies?
Oh, I don't know if there's a single one.
Here I am trying to oversimplify it.
Yeah, right. I don't know if it's a habit, but
Or mindset.
I'm curious. I think just being curious about everything helps in every way. And that's something that I had to relearn in different areas of my life. Whenever you encounter something that maybe seems simple, don't oversimplify it. Be curious to find out more about it, to find out other experts on it. When somebody has a different opinion than you about how you might want to go about it, just assume they have different information than you. Ask them why. It's not that they're wrong or whatever. It's why is that? Dig into it. I also think that a lot of the advice out there about growing businesses is pretty bad. So I do things fairly unconventionally. At first, out of not knowing better, because I launched my first business with 0 business training. It kind of just happened. And I had this opportunity that if I opened a lab, I'd have a client. And I thought, well, no one just opens a lab. That's craziness. What am I doing? But the timing had to work out. I had it, and I was like, I think I could actually do this. And I thought of it as a project first, not as a business. And it took me a while to get there. And I thought of a lot of business processes from a science perspective, because that's the background I had. But what I've realized over time is a business. Okay, I love analogies. So if you're looking at a magazine or something, and maybe there's like, it's a house magazine, and you see houses that you really like, or the way that, a living room is designed. You're like, oh, I want my living room to look like that living room. So you go and put everything together exactly the way that one is, and you realize, I can't live like this. That was a photograph.
Show home.
Yeah. Nobody lives like that. There's no way. Where's my stuff? Where's
the kid's Barbie house? Where's
right?
the magazines go? Where's the
or
dog toys go?
yeah, or you might see there might be somebody that you admire in your industry, and you think, oh, I want to emulate them. I want to be like them. Well, they'll never be them. They're not you. They have different strengths than you have, and you need to feed into your strengths and grow those. So there can be things that you want to learn from that person or how they did something, but you don't want to be that person. And that's the same thing with businesses, I think, is a lot of times the advice out there is how to be like that other business, how to be like that multi-million-dollar app that did whatever. And that's not what every business should be. So you have to really find your own identity in business and decide what you want to be and how you want that to grow. And so a lot of the conventional advice won't apply.
How has building companies changed the way you think about decision making?
Probably a lot. I shouldn't say probably a lot. Definitely a lot. The question is, for me, how do I differentiate that from just my growth as a person over 15 years? Because building and developing companies has been a part of who I have been for 15 years. So I don't know how to differentiate what's coming from the business because that's so integrated in my life. But
I feel like that's common with entrepreneurs.
yeah.
Like who you are and the business are so intertwined.
They can be, yeah. Well, it's kind of like, again, like a musician. You wouldn't say, well, being a musician, like that person is a musician, right? So a person is an entrepreneur, and it's part of their mindset. It's part of how they view the world too. Like entrepreneurs view the world with this immense amount of hope. And I actually think that we could probably like develop some kind of metric as a country to measure entrepreneurship as a metric of how much people have hope for the future. Because if you're starting a company, that means that you think tomorrow's going to be better than today. And you think you can influence it. Because if you thought tomorrow's going to be worse, you're just going to go get some government job somewhere. You're not going to go put the sweat and effort into building something and creating something. So they're infinitely hopeful. Every day they wake up and it doesn't really matter what happened yesterday. You're still getting up and you're still doing it, right? Even though some days are really, really hard.
Sometimes, yes.
But you're still doing it,
Yeah.
right? So there's still some amount of hope that tomorrow's going to be better than today was. And I love that about whether it's entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial mindset. I think that's one of the things I've learned about it that just fascinates me is that amount of hope that entrepreneurs have.
Eternally optimistic.
In some way, almost to a flaw sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's why some businesses don't.
Yeah.
But that's the fun of it. I use an analogy of like business is like a game. I'm a gamifying kind of person. And to see, like, you got to try things out. You don't know what's going to work. Certain things do, certain things don't. You adapt, you change, do it again. Like it's just a rinse and repeat.
That's really neat because what you're describing as gamifying is a bit what I think of as a scientific type of approach of testing and figuring out what works. So that's actually kind of like same, different way of explaining it.
Yeah. And like, yeah. You don't know. I like metrics to an extent. Like sales numbers are like, well, like I can't force someone to give me money.
Yeah.
So I tend to, I look at them because I've been told it's good, best practice.
Yep. Well, it's a lagging indicator more so than a leading indicator. Yeah.
So I like the KPIs of like how many calls or leads are you getting, or how many, what's your percentage of closing, or lifetime value of a customer. Like I find those kind of interesting. What parts of entrepreneurship surprised you the most once you were in it?
It's
That being said, you have a family of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I have a bunch of brothers, 3 of them, that are entrepreneurs also. And I didn't realize it as a kid, but we grew up very entrepreneurial, almost out of a necessity. We lived in the country on an acreage, and we would sell produce from the garden, for example. And that helped, pay the bills around the house. I would make handmade jewelry and sell it on commission growing up. There was always, or consignment, I should say. There's always some aspect of entrepreneurship that I didn't realize growing up. And the thing is, even though my family's a bunch of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship itself is a little bit of an isolating thing in society. It's there's a lot of studies out there that talk about how managers and leaders are fairly isolated or lonely even, because that relationship of employee-employer. But entrepreneurs, I think, have a little bit more of an alienation from the rest of society in a way, because many people don't understand what it's like to actually like bet on yourself. And some people think that you're cocky for doing it. And other people just think you're crazy for doing it or don't get it. And, you know, it's essentially like, are you going to put that money in the stock market and bet that some other person who's building a business is going to do great with that? Or are you going to put the money into your business and believe that you're going to do something amazing with it and get it out? And that mindset doesn't exist everywhere.
I grew up with a dad. I mean, I guess a lot of people did, but
Yeah, but
my dad's personality is funny. It's like you make your money at your job, and then your skills and time you give for free because you're just trying to help people out, which is very non-entrepreneurial because, and he owns rental property, and it's really huge, really like he gives too much grace to his tenants. He doesn't charge enough, and then he just can't. He feels guilty about making money off of people. Like in general, like he views his house as like, well, they got to live somewhere anyway, so it's almost like a good fit for him in his personality. But so,
if he's making his money elsewhere, though,
I got a job.
Yeah, you know.
But then like he doesn't like paying people to do things either, because he puts this unrealistic expectation on others to do the same for him.
Oh,
and then
that's actually something that was really hard for me to learn, and I still have to relearn. Is I've been burned several times where, you know, I see the best in people, or I believe, you know, in operating ethically, and I still can't wrap my head around the fact that some people don't. I think it's Hanlon's Razor. I could be setting that wrong though, where don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to stupidity. So I typically attribute when somebody's messed something up or wronged me, I think, oh, they just didn't know better, or that's the best they could do, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's come back to realize, oh, actually, no, they had ill intent. But I just don't want to believe that about people.
I don't think it's, I would bet it's not common.
I don't think it's common. People don't go around out there thinking, how am I going to do bad by you? But sometimes they're just a little bit too focused on themselves and what's best for them, without considering others. It's maybe inconsiderate.
Yeah. So so that I had to kind of break that mindset of, you know, being confident in what I do, what I charge. It's really not about money. It's really about value exchange. So like if you're trying to help someone grow an organization, it's like, can you help them do that? What's that worth? That's really the only question. And not everybody can afford it, and that's fine. Not everybody buys brand new Nikes. Like I was a kid, I never had Nike shoes. I had I think it said, you remember the Nike shoes that said Air?
Yeah.
Like the whole side of it said Air. It was like
maybe.
Anyway, this is like the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was in high school in the 90s. Yeah.
Walmart was newish back in the 90s here. And I remember going with my mom. They had knockoff ones and it said Rad. R-A-D,
that's awesome.
Instead of Air. And I was like I grew up sort of that, you know, that was for, like the nice stuff was for other people and not for me.
I grew up getting a lot of my clothes at like one of the churches that in our community. I'm from Prince Albert. They had the cathedral had a secondhand like store in the basement, and as a teenager, I'd go down there and find deals and stuff. And when I was 14, I actually started working in the mall. My parents had to sign a waiver because I was too young to have a job. And they signed a waiver, and I got a job working in the mall so I could get a discount at the clothing stores because I wanted to buy clothes.
Very industrious of you.
And well, my older brother and I have both had jobs, I think, since we were 14 and 15 in multiple different types, like from shingling roofs for neighbors to selling shoes, clothing. I waitressed a lot of years. Yeah. You can learn a lot from those jobs. They're still on my LinkedIn profile, actually.
I have your LinkedIn profile. It's like the longest one I have. It's like double-sided.
I'm thorough, okay?
If you're watching this podcast, you can see. Like it's
yeah. You can join me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of stuff there.
You can tell people who are like use LinkedIn as a tool because they have really good, like your summary is really well written. You have very detailed ways you contributed to the organizations you're in.
Communication is really important to me. Whether it's about myself, I have this like deep need to be understood. And so I am sometimes too verbose in trying to explain myself. But it's something I look at a lot in scientific communication or business communication is taking those really complex ideas and finding ways to communicate them to people who maybe don't have the time to commit to learning all the jargon. So
it's funny, they do training at the U of S for scientists like and professors doing research. Like,
Yep.
I think it was Leslie Ann Slosher, if you know
Okay,
her.
I don't.
I met her when I worked photographing for Green and White magazine. But yeah, her job was to do, help these professors communicate to the world. And then they'd do training with them. Another one, we've worked with Vito at the U of S, and same thing, their communications departments. Like scientists don't explain things necessarily well by nature to lay people, to their peers that then they can communicate. But yeah.
It's fantastic to hear that's happening. When I did my master's and PhD, that was 2004 through 2008-9 range. My favorite class I took, even though I was in like microbiology and bioinformatics and stuff, it was a non-credit class that I took, and it was a night class, and it was called Science Societal Communications. And I cannot remember who the professor was. He was fantastic, though. I've tried to find out for a while, but I can't find this. And we talked about how different words mean, the same word can mean different things to multiple people. And he used the word organic. Like to a chemist, it means something very different than to somebody who's interested in types of food, right?
Costco organic butter.
Exactly. So that's about no pesticides, whereas organic means involving carbon and oxygen in chemistry. Or genetically modified. What does that mean to people?
Like a human is organic, a vegetable. Yeah, you're an organic organism, right? So it's interesting, and I've actually taken a lot of that into my business training too. And I've developed what I call my list of least favorite words. And they include things like innovation, resilience. I would call in marketing, call them buzzwords, but keep going. These
exactly.
And I hate those words.
And they are buzzwords. And the thing is, if I use the word innovation, a lot of people will hear it and go, oh yeah, I like innovation. They nod. But each one of them thinks I'm talking about something different. It's whatever that word means to them. So same thing with resilience. It means something different to each person. So
after COVID, that word was way too.
Oh, yeah. And when I'm managing people, if I say, oh, I need you to be more, we need to think times are tough. We need to be more resilient. To one person, that means have some grit and power through it. To another person, that means be flexible. And if you're using one word that multiple people interpret differently, you're going to get different and undesirable outcomes from each of them. And they're going to sit there wondering, I did exactly what she asked for. Why is she getting a bonus and I'm not?
Yeah. Authentic's one of those words too.
Oh, yeah. That's another awful one.
There's a few. ChatGPT,
but they're wonderful words.
ChatGPT loves using, like, if you have a photo video studio and you have it make something without your brain having any input, it'll talk about weaving the narrative. Like, what the hell does that mean?
I've had to rework my personal writing style because of ChatGPT. I'm a stickler for how my PhD supervisor really ingrained in me a lot of writing technique because I didn't actually have a class in English until grade 9 in school. I spoke English at home, but it was a French immersion school. And so a lot of the stuff that most people learn in school about grammars, because I read a lot, I knew how to structure things. So he worked very, very diligently with me on my writing techniques, as well as making it short. He had this sign that he put up in my little grad student office that said, if you can't say it in one page, you don't know what you're talking about. And so it was always about compressing the idea, getting to the point, like what is the key thing. And I use em dashes. I use if this, then that. And that's how AI started writing. So I've had to rework how I write so I sound human to people. Because some of my posts are starting to sound like they're AI.
That's funny. We use AI to help do some writing. And one of the things we fight with is like it likes to wrap every thought up with a bow, and it uses too many like it'll like you'll notice it like it gives an example, and then it'll give, this is what people or like it'll be like. I'm trying to make up a story. I'll just make one up here. If you do marketing right, your audience won't know the difference. Blah blah. Let's say if you use AI right, your audience won't know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people, and then it'll add 2 more to 3 more sentences for some reason that mean they don't add to it. They don't support it. Like, that's what people look for. If you follow those 2 rules, you'll be gold. And then it'll add like 2 or 3 of those funny sentences. And then at the end of any of the whole document or whatever it's generating for you, it'll write something like the bottom line. Like literally it will write that for you. I'm like, okay, well, you should probably have an outro, but then it just uses that and then it regurgitates this dog crap of like non-adding sentences. Yeah. And it's like, but yeah, that's a red flag I have. Anyway, we edit that out.
I've actually started to, when I'm a social media, I don't interact with the ones that are blatantly AI. I just don't like or follow, I'm like, I'd rather see typos and poor sentence structure and it be your thought.
You ever put a typo in purposely?
No, I just do typo. That's, it happens. For my social media and content, I actually do my own writing still. I find I use AI in many areas of my work. And even in my PhD, I was using machine learning and modeling and stuff. So I'm not familiar with it. But I find for myself, the process, I write for the purpose of sharing knowledge. I'm not trying to sell something. I don't need to bring clients in. I really want to share some knowledge or some ideas that will make people maybe a little uncomfortable and think about stuff. And to do that, I need to process them more. So I find that the actual act of writing and editing my own work helps me think through things and gives me that value. So I do my own writing for that purpose. Nothing against other people who use AI as long as they're using their own brains with it, because it's too easy to I see so many people just obviously an AI's created all their content.
Yeah. And humans know.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to no, you can just.
It's kind of like images that you see and you're like, something's a little off, right? And you can tell. But I bet you in about a year we won't be able to. I have a GPT that will mimic my writing style. So I've fed it a bunch of my reports and stuff, and I can give it like data sets and stuff and my interpretations, and it'll write it in my style for technical reports and stuff.
Is it good enough?
It's better than a average graduate student. So when I think of the people I hire, it does a better job than fresh out of school graduates.
One of the main struggles I have with it is it's because it lacks insight. It doesn't do the work well.
No, it doesn't. No,
it helps me do the work, but it doesn't do it's almost like having your kid do something. Like I have 3 kids, teaching them to do dishes. They can, if I'm there, they'll do it 10 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. If I'm not there managing it, it deteriorates, and then the longer I haven't managed it, the more it turns into less dishes, no dishes being done.
Yeah. I try to not use, so I don't use it for my own writing because I like that thought process, but I do use it, I'll feed my writing into it and ask it, pretend you are Matt from Studio D. What are some questions you might ask me about this on a podcast?
That's a great use.
Or I'm putting this out. What is something that people who are opposed to this idea might put into the comments?
That whole interview process of ask me questions and I'll answer them. Mm-hmm. I feel like anyone who's had success with any AI or LLM, that's one of their things they do is ask me questions. Ask me, here's my idea. Ask me 10 questions until we have something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the output might not, it's not saying the output's going to be necessarily great, but in asking the questions, now you think about it. Same with your writing, as you put your ideas onto paper. I find when I talk to people about ideas, I'd get better at articulating them the next time.
I do find, so I have some, I call them personas in there that I've got different frameworks that I've asked it, like, okay, this persona in GPT can only use these rules, and this one can use these. So one's like really harsh and critical of my writing, and another one's like, I don't have any that are actually happy with my writing. They're all against me, but that says something.
Well, that's good because by default, it's like on your team. And
yeah, they're all different types of critics. So I do send my stuff through, like if I'm, especially when it's technical work, where's my blind spot? What have I missed in here? Yeah.
Those are two great questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice prompts like that. Or, based on this, what reading would you recommend for me online? Or what podcasts are great out there that cover this topic?
Yeah. I saw one that was like, be devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, just oppose me.
Yeah.
Because then it makes, when you have to defend something, you get more clear of why the idea is good or the approach is good or theory, opinion, whatever.
And actually, that's a reason why I think scientists make fantastic entrepreneurs, because we are so used to someone opposing us and saying that we are wrong about something. So peer review is part of the scientific process. You have to write up what you've done, put it up to a journal of some sort, and a bunch of scientists will review it and tell you all the stuff that sucks about it. And you have to go back and do more science or rewrite it and so forth. And so we learn that we can have these great ideas, put something out there, and then essentially fail, get rejected. But that doesn't mean stop. It means come up with better ideas, do better, work on it. And so people have gone through graduate studies, have learned to fail repeatedly. And I say air quotes fail, but it feels like failing because the thing that you thought was going to happen or the thing that you thought was going to work, turns out you prove it's wrong instead of right or whatever it is. And so it's very similar in business where you think that a new marketing campaign is going to work and it doesn't. It doesn't mean you failed. You learned something. So if you think of them as hypotheses, you didn't fail. You proved the null hypothesis that it didn't work.
So I talk to my clients a lot. I'm like, we're going to try this, see if it works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're talking about being able to prove or not. A lot of things in marketing are like, people love like click-through rates and things like that. And it's like, those are good pieces, but like not everything. Brand awareness is not a really trackable metric. Like,
yep.
But we know it works. And that's why billboards still sell. That's why radio time sells. You just know volume has an effect. Again, hard to measure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know how you put that in like scientific terms, but.
Oh, there's probably somebody who's done a PhD on it. It's not my area,
yeah.
But there's even things like click-through rates, though I find interesting because click-through rates were not the key metric until they became the key metric.
Yeah.
There would have been a time period where only weirdos did click-through rates.
Yeah.
And that it was a new idea that somebody had to pitch and took a while to catch on. So I'm always curious, like, what's that next thing?
It's funny too, like then because that's a metric that's trackable and, or, people like their vanity metrics,
Mm-hmm.
like watch time, view count, likes, follows.
Yeah.
Then because they're trackable, then the efforts get put on making those go up. And then it's like, at the end of the day, we're actually, for most businesses, unless you're like a nonprofit or something, you're trying to generate cash. And then we get away from this, like, track the cash, track the scales. Like, traditional companies have salespeople, and like a good salesperson sells more. Like, do that, just repeat that as much as is possible.
I think the best sales tactic is happy customers. But
well, yeah,
because they're going to do the sales for you. But I think, if I could try to rephrase a bit of what you're saying is your leading indicators, click-throughs or likes or whatever, have to match your lagging indicators, your revenue. And we really struggle in business to match those up. And for people who don't understand those terms, leading and lagging indicators, as an example, it's the new year, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds, okay? My leading indicator would be how many calories I'm consuming a day. Or it could be how many times I exercise. My lagging indicator is, have I lost weight?
What the scale says, does the clothes fit?
Exactly. But if my plan is to lose weight by running 20 kilometers a week or 100 kilometers a week, it'd have to be more than 20, 100 kilometers a week. I'm not a runner right now, but used to be. And what I'm actually measuring is my caloric intake. I don't have a good gauge of whether or not I'm going to lose weight. Because my calories would go up because I'm running so much, but I'd be losing weight because the net change. So if you're measuring the wrong thing, if you're measuring calories instead of amount of running, you're not going to have any indicator of your future weight loss or not.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're extreme, but then it's not sustainable and you run into problems.
Exactly. But, if you're like in this very simple example, if you're just measuring calories, your calories, they might stay the same even though you're running. So you still don't know what's going to happen because you're not losing weight by decreasing your calories. You're losing weight by increasing your activity.
Yeah.
And so you have to measure the right thing to know what's going to happen. And in business, if you're measuring click-through rates, but that's irrelevant to your sales, you have no idea what's going on anyways.
One of my guests said something. He said that most people underestimate the value of talking to customers.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll track all these other metrics. And you were saying like a happy customer is like the best advertising. Well, do you talk to your customers? Do you ask them? I know I've asked you for a Google review, which you lovely gave us, or happily gave us. But yeah, it's like, do you talk to them? And so one of the things we actually like ask people for reviews, and then we watch what they say. And then we kind of like, okay, we learn from that too, of like, what part of it did they like? Where should we put more focus on? Like a lot of people like us because of the experience. That's like a huge thing on a lot of the projects we do. And then, a bad metric would be just to ask people what they want. People don't know what they want.
No,
right?
People don't know what they want.
The people who've paid you money, they're already like tested, right? Like they already value you in a certain way. But then to ask them, what did you like? Why did you buy it? Are you happy? What would you change?
Yeah.
And then learn from that. And that's like market research 101 probably, but like, likes, follows don't mean anything.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day and they're saying they do content production and their customers getting millions of views. It's like, I know people with like hundreds of thousands of followers, they still need a day job. You don't convert like those metrics that some people would drool over. Doesn't convert to revenue. And it's like, yeah, well, they're still teaching full time if they're an influencer or they're, like.
And you don't know how many of those are bots. Like on my own website, I post I had been posting articles on my website before I started my Substack. And a couple of days I had like this big peak of like views and stuff and hits on my website. Like, wow, this is amazing. I wonder why there's so many hits from like Washington State in the US. Like, I wonder why they're interested in my posts. And I did some searching and there's just a giant bot farm there essentially. And so it's hard to know what's real in terms of these views and likes and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, just make a good product.
And I'd also say, like, yes, there's having happy clients. And as you noted, I've posted a review for your photography services before because they're great. But I read this, I can't even remember the author of the book, but the book's actually called Raving Fans. And it was something I picked up in like an airport once when I had a delayed flight or canceled flight. And it's like that thick, like not big at all. But the premise of it is to not have just clients, but to try to treat your clients in such a way that they become raving fans of your work. And they do the sales for you. So if you give your customers the service that you would want, or the level of attention that you think you deserve, they're going to love it. If you treat them with the level of importance you would like to be treated when you're out being a client somewhere, they're going to love it. And they're going to become raving fans. I'll say I'm a raving fan of yours. I don't just write a Google review. I go out and tell people, you got to get your pictures done there. It's worth it. You will not be disappointed because I guarantee he's going to make sure you get an outcome that you're happy with.
You heard it here first, folks.
Well, it's true because I become a raving fan I've used their services now for probably over a decade in different ways. And I have used other photographers for other reasons and, someone else has chosen somebody else for an event I was at. And they're great too, but I keep coming back to you because I know it's going to be good. And that consistency matters. That consistency, the knowledge of how a company operates and how their people operate is, to me, more important than if you've got 1 million followers on your TikTok.
I have a question. I want to throw these out, but I'll ask one more from here.
We can jump around however you want. It's a benefit of being ADD. You can just squirrel everywhere with me.
I'm pretty sure I am too. Never diagnosed, but not that it matters. But.
I was diagnosed, but I've never had any medications or stuff for it. It's actually really interesting. When you think of like a normal distribution curve of like a bell curve of like how people perform and stuff, people with ADD actually have it's called a binomial curve or dual. So some people perform low and some people perform exceptionally high. There's like no in between for people with ADD. It's very interesting.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's cool. What's the name of that curve?
So there's a bell curve, and then there's like a binary curve or binomial, depending on how you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
I guess there's probably a few different names for that type of curve.
Does it actually like drop down like it's a reverse
Yeah.
bell?
Yeah. It two peaks. You get a peak at the high end and a peak at the low end.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Tell me about business. Like I tend to like learning from people from experience. What have you learned along the way the hard way, would you say, as an entrepreneur?
Probably more than I should have. I think the thing I had to learn the hard way is like the major thing was just how similar all businesses are and that people are people. And when I started my first business, a scientific lab, consulting in the mining sector, nonetheless, there didn't feel like there's many other similar companies for me to work with, or like not work with, but to be peers with, to learn from. And so there'd be groups for entrepreneurship or women entrepreneurs, and they'd have their cupcake shops or their yoga studio, and those are wonderful. And I think we should have more entrepreneurs doing more of that. But it didn't feel to me like they were peers or that they would understand what I was going through. And I had to learn the hard way that like they absolutely understand, and it is all the same, but a little bit different. Because people are people, managing people, selling to people. There's so much similarities. And once I got that, a lot of stuff became easier.
Do you ever do any like training with like personality typing and like you've had to build teams because your organizations weren't small? Like the one that I first worked with you on was Maven, like a huge lab, big team. I don't know. I think the first time I worked with you, you had like 15 or 20 people or something.
Yeah, around there.
Maybe it was more.
I've been up to 25 at different points.
I think that might have.
Yeah.
I remember shooting quite a few people.
Yeah, my first company, I should say, was 25 to 30 people when I sold that. So, yeah. And then I've managed teams of 100. And so.
Yeah, so if you worked with personality typing, like.
Absolutely.
There's a thing with human behavior where if you expect too much of people, then you get disappointed. I've had to work through that one myself because no one's going to care as much as you, especially if you're the founder.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I have. So I'm a weirdo. When I was in undergrad, I'm actually like one or two classes short of a psychology degree, just because I found it so fascinating and I kept taking those classes as my electives. So I have used things like Myers-Briggs and different things like that. There's all sort of DISC profiles. And I think they really can help for a team to understand one another and dynamics. They all have their shortcomings. I always mention that, like any framework does. But I find it really helpful. What you mentioned about people not caring about it as much or so forth, absolutely. No one's going to care about your business as much as you do. But I've tried really hard to find ways to align people's growth and development plans to the company values and the company growth plans. So as an example, if people are willing to share some of their personal goals, we can align some of the, everyone wears a bunch of hats in a smaller company. So we can align those maybe extra parts of their job to their personal goals. Somebody might want to open an online store where they sell their quilts on Etsy or whatever it might be. Well, that person might be interested in learning how to maintain our website because they want to learn how to maintain their website. And if we give them a few hours a week to learn the platform and work with it, they get value out of it themselves. So then they get a little bit more vested interest in it. But a place where I've struggled and continue to struggle is actually I had somebody who had, people quit companies. That happens all the time. I had somebody reach out to me a few months ago, and it was a message on LinkedIn, and they said, I just wanted to thank you for believing in me. And that sounds beautiful, right? But this is a person who had quit with like scorched earth. They burned every bridge they could when they quit and like were not happy. And I was like, this is weird. So I just kind of thought, well, tell me more. And we ended up having an interesting conversation where they explained to me that when they worked with me, I had this vision of what they're capable of that didn't match theirs. So I was kind of pushing them. If you think of like in sports, a coach who's pushing their top athletes to do more, I thought they could do more. So I was helping them to get there. And they're saying, no, I want to be here. I don't want to be there. And they said it took them a couple years to realize that I was right. They could be there. But when you have that mismatch, either that you see a vision for them or a capability that they don't see in themselves, or that they just don't want to be in that personal growth mode, that's a recipe for disaster. And I do that all the time because I always see the best in people. I see the potential of people rather than meeting them where they're at.
I find employing people, I love my team, but it's like, there's like, when you're interviewing people and people are new, there's like, it's almost like the dating phase.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, when people settle in, that's the real them. And so trying to figure out, I've learned to like watch for what I think would be the real them. So like I ask them questions about their life, what they like to do. Mm-hmm. And then I find if I ask people what they like to do in their free time and what makes them happy, if that aligns with the company, then that's the win.
Yeah.
Because what they say they'll like and do, and even the way they show up when they first start here, there's always that extra enthusiasm. Mm. But then over time, like the honeymoon phase ends and you're just working together. And I found that a really good way to like, you know, make sure that it's a long-term fit, not just a short-term. Because like everybody can wow you. Everybody wants to, like, especially if someone's looking for employment, they want the job. Yeah. So they're trying to do and say the things you want to hear.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And so is that your favorite interview question to ask people?
I don't do a ton of interviewing. Like, I don't know. Like usually I hire people I kind of know because I already know they have like
that's the best.
A bit of the DNA. Like they've proven their lives. Like actually our whole team now is like people who've owned their own companies.
Mm-hmm. So they've got that entrepreneurial blood in them already.
They got that. And then there's a thing, especially with photography and video, it's like people who do that typically do it because they want to do that as a job. And currently it's still not a very common full-time position.
Yeah.
Or if it is, maybe it's not super creative. But yeah, they tend to be like a great fit. And if they have responsibilities at home, like a 22-year-old to 25-year-old, we've had a lot of team members that age. I shouldn't say a lot. We like probably like 15 people total in our whole company history, but they're just different. Like, and if they're really creative, where I align with them, but like not tied down, they want to spread their wings as they should. But then I know I don't have them for a long time. But people who have a mortgage and kids, there's something different. Like they work harder, they show up more.
It's a different season of life.
Yeah.
You know, the different priorities, and some of those ones that have spread their wings, they might come back eventually too.
Yeah, I try to. That's one of our philosophies. One of our clients, Zoo. Mm-hmm. You probably know a bunch of people there, but like they have that, and lots of people do come and go, and then they'll come back. And
a lot of my past employees have gone on to work for clients eventually, and so we end up getting work that way because they're now, you know, an employee of a past client, so they know to come to us because we'll do great work for them. Well, I should say us. I sold the company, but I still talk like it's mine. But
you're asking me about my favorite interview question. You it sounds like you have a favorite interview question.
There's a lot that I like. I ask them for different reasons with different people, but I don't have to do interviews anymore. I hope. Well, not that way.
For now.
Yeah, like I ask, I things that would help me understand how they operate. So it might sound crazy, but I'll ask them, like, how would they go about building a table? And the variety of answers is wonderful because you start to see how somebody thinks. Do they start by asking, what's the table for? Do they say, I don't know how to build a table? Do they jump into exactly how they're going to do it without even knowing what it's for? So it's really interesting to see how they work. And you can actually guess quite a bit about someone's personality or their independence through an answer to something like that.
If you asked me to build a table right now, I'd be like, well, I would get the box in, I would unpackage it, look for a manual, put all the parts to the side and the tools that it comes with. And if it doesn't have anything, I'd go find it and I'd just get to building it.
Yeah. And that's a fine answer. There's
what
really,
are you looking for?
There's really a bad answer. I'm looking for how do they go about it. So in your answer, you made an assumption that the table's coming in a box with instructions. And that's fair. So I might ask you a follow-up question of like, what if, you had to build it from materials and there was no ordered, to see if you're okay with starting at the earlier end. I'm looking for...
Then I would say build it. I'd go online, figure out how tall is a standard table.
Yeah.
Because I know there's standard heights for tables, countertops, bar height.
Yeah. So there you're putting thought into how is it going to be used.
I would ask which one you want. Or if you want me to choose, I would ask what it's being used for. And then I would say how many people need to sit at it. And then...
Yeah, so you're getting information to make it a good table. So that all shows thought process, consideration of others. My companies have been involved in consulting work, so you really have to care about what is it used for.
So would a bad answer be like, well, I'd make 4 legs and put a top on?
Yeah, or I don't know how to build a table. I'd call my dad to do it for me. I've heard that answer a few times.
And so you're looking for it's just an indicator, like no,
just no
real
some
like,
people
right wrong answer.
No, there is no right wrong. And sometimes it's also okay, like that person got really detailed and really so okay, we're probably going to be able to give them really detailed stuff, or we don't want to be ambiguous with that person in the future.
I had a guest on the show. This is like my last guest. She said she'll drop a pen off the table and see if the person goes to pick it up for them or lets them pick it up.
Interesting.
And she said it was like to see if it was with Hannah Wheeler. I'll just say it because it's in the episode. But she was like looking for what kind of client they'll be.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I didn't ask on the show. I kind of wanted to dig, but I was like, do you test everybody? And I was like, this is social engineering. But she had some like ways to like see kind of how people react to her, how they want to work with her. And
I also ask people, so this is when I'm interviewing them to have a job with my companies, is I'll ask them some crazy math question. Like, what's 782 times 3,698? And they'll just kind of stare at me. And some of them will just kind of, well, I could do it if I had a piece of paper. So, okay. And give them a piece of paper. Some people say, well, I use my phone for that. Okay, go ahead. Other people, I've had people get mad, downright mad. And so it shows, are they willing to ask for help? Are they willing to use tools available to them? How do they respond to something out of the ordinary and challenging? Or some of them, one person wanted to do it in their head, do it. And I'm like, you can have a piece of paper if you'd like. No, I can do this. And he gave me a number and he goes, is that right? I said, I don't know. He got so mad. And I'm like, well, this tells me a little bit about what you might be like to work with.
Thanks so much for being here, Monique. If you want to find Monique, you can find her on LinkedIn, Dr. Monique Simair, or you can find her on Instagram at Dr. Monique Simair. Thanks for being here.